You guys pin down your wigs. We're talking truth today. I hope it's not too much, but the times are where we can't afford to not know the truth. If you haven't already gotten your truth scriptures, this is the most accurate translation of the word of our Father that exists on the planet. And this is only the Brit Hadash, the New Testament. They are almost finished with the Old Testament. I got a message just yesterday, and he was reading off all the books that are complete from the Old Testament. I think there's only 12 books left for them to complete the translation. So they're going to be finished by the end of this month. And I would highly recommend that you get involved in the campaign. So y'all say it with me, Yahuwah, Yahuwah. That's the name of our Father, the name that they erased from the Holy Scriptures over 6,800 times. They took it out. They took it out because they didn't want us connected to our power. They didn't want us to connect it to, he said that everything is in his name. So for those of you who are new, let me just bring you up to speed. Last year at March, the Father woke me up in the middle of the night, and he was saying to me, and it was loud, and it kind of startled me. And he said, "It's all in my name. What's my name? Do you know my name? It's all in my name. What's my name? Do you know my name? Do you know my name? It's all in my name." And he just kept saying it over and over. And I was like, "What are you talking about? What do you mean?" Yes, I know your name. I've been walking with you intimately for over 25 years. You wrote 2 books through me. You helped me. You led me so that I was part of building the foundation of a world-renowned Bible school. I worked with them for 3 years. I've been just deeply studying with you for over 25 years. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, I know your name. But because he woke me up like that, it made me ask the question, why are you asking me this? And maybe I don't. Maybe I don't know your name. And so I started studying, and I learned that we don't know his name. We do not know our Father's name. His name is not G-O-D. I hate to break it to you all. It's not. His name is not J-E-S-U-S. That's not his name. His name is not L-O-R-D. I'm particularly not calling these names out because he asked us in his word to not revere and lift another name above his name. And now we know those are not his name. The Almighty Creator gave us his name, and they took it out of the word. And so it took me a year, y'all. First of all, I cried for 2 weeks when I learned this, because I actually went through the original scrolls and I saw that this character set is called the Tetragrammaton. It existed over 6,800 times in the ancient scriptures, in the scrolls. You can see it. And for those of you who haven't looked on my page on TikTok, I have a video that says urgent prophetic message for the body of believers. And I'm calling out pastors, prophets, teachers, evangelists, apostles, bishops, psalmists, scribes, those who are set apart, those who are chosen, who know that they're a part of the 144. Those of you who have been called into his purpose, this message is for you, because we got to get his name right. We got to get his name right. So he caused me to study. The reason I mentioned that video that's on my page is because I show you pictures from the scrolls where you can see this 4-character tetragrammaton. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. And they took it out. And they did it on purpose because they wanted to disconnect us from our power. They wanted to disconnect us because they wanted to stay in control. And they did that back in 325 AD, when Constantine brought together the Nicene Council. And he did that so that well, let me just tell the story. I apologize for those of you who've heard this several times, but we got to make sure the whole family comes up to speed with this. In 325 AD, this is a couple of hundred years after the man who walked the earth that we called Jesus. His actual name is Yahusha. It's spelled Y-A-H-U-S-H-A. Yahusha. Say that with me. Yahusha. Yahusha. That's the name of the man who walked the earth that we would call Jesus. Yahusha, when he lived, the disciples or emissaries, they watched him, they learned from him, they walked with him, they saw the miracles, they saw the people being healed, they saw the sick recovering, they saw the blind getting their sight, they saw the money coming out of the fish's mouth, they saw the fish jumping into the boat, they saw Peter walk on the water, they saw the everything split when they crucified him, they saw the day went black in the middle of the day. They watched the entire earth shook when he was crucified. They were there. They watched it all. And it marked them. And after that, they watched him walk the earth again after he rose. They spent time with him. They sat with him. He was on the planet, I want to say 2 months, that he walked around with them after he had died, was crucified, went to hell and came back. And so they knew that something big had happened. And they knew that what he was teaching was powerful and that it would change humanity. And so they told these stories. And when something happens to you and it impacts you, the details stand out. Like when you have an experience with the Father, you remember the way something smelled. You remember the time of the day. You remember all these details. And so when you tell those stories, those details shine through. And so as they would pass these stories down to the family, the details would shine through. And so they kept the stories intact until they began to write them down in the scrolls. And when they wrote them down in the scrolls, these families would cherish these scrolls, and they would teach them to their families. And to even be able to get your hands on a scroll, they were incredibly expensive. The paper was expensive, the ink, and who knew how to write, right? Back in those days. So, thank you, Father. Thank you, Father. So, as time passed, they were walking in the same and doing the same. Remember, Yahusha said that you would do greater works than he did, right? Just follow, do what I said, and use my words and walk in my ways. And you're going to do these greater works. And you're going to even do greater works than I ever did. And the people were doing it. And they were laying hands and people were recovering, and they were giving sight to the blind, and the lepers were being cleansed, and raising the dead and all the stuff. They were doing the stuff. And so the people who were in charge, the Romans, they were not happy about that. What are we going to do with these people? They already were mad that Yahusha was walking the earth. They had one of them. Now they have a whole army of them. What are they going to do? So what they did was they told them, hey, we're going to make it so everybody can read it. Bring us your scrolls so we can publish them, put them all together and give them to the world so everybody can have the same word. And they did that. All the people were like, oh, this is great. So they brought all their scrolls and they turned them into Constantine. And he brought together this whole army of philosophers and wise people, I'll just call them, to sit down and scrub through this word and understand it and figure out what needs to stay in here and what do we need to get rid of. And so they decided we're going to take these books out. That's giving them too much information. We're going to take these words out. And then one of the things that they did, thank you for the love, you guys. Thank you for the hearts. Make sure you're liking and sharing so the rest of the world can learn this. One of the things that they did was because his name, the Father's name, Yahuwah, it appeared 6,800 times. 6,800 times. So if you were to pick up a book and open the book and you see how many times that name shows up, you'd be like, okay, that's a clue. That has to go. So one of the things that they did was instead of putting his name in there, they put G-O-D, L-O-R-D, the L-O-R-D, your G-O-D. They had to separate it, put it out there in a way where we wouldn't recognize that this is his name and he ain't playing about his name. Now, interestingly enough, and you'll find this in the other video that I did, the title G-O-D and the title L-O-R-D were first used, and there's something that you need to understand about biblical study. The first time something is mentioned, that's where you want to always go because it's called the law of first mention. When it's mentioned the first time, you understand the context of it. You understand why it's being used, who it's being used by, where it's being used, what the culture is, what's happening in the culture, what's happening historically. That first time it's mentioned gives you a clue as to the source of it, right? So the first time that G-O-D and L-O-R-D and the L-O-R-D, your G-O-D, were used, the first time they were used were in reverence of the deity by the name of Baal. Let that sink in. The first time those titles were used were in reverence of the deity by the name of Baal. And in Jeremiah, Yirmiyahu, and his name has Yahoo in it, Jeremiah, Yirmiyahu, chapter 23, verse 27, the Father tells us that we would forget his name, just like our forefathers did when they forgot his name for Baal. He warned us, y'all. He warned us. And then he told us in Revelations that the whole earth would be deceived. And right now, the whole earth, the entire body of believers, thinks that they are reverencing and worshiping and praising the Almighty Creator when they use those terms. And instead, they've got you lifting up and immortalizing the name of a deity that is not our Father. I know that's a lot. I know that's a lot. I cried for weeks. I could cry now, like I feel my tears welling up, because think about how many people trusted in that. Trust in that word still today. Trust in those names, those titles still today. And they were deceived and are still being deceived. The Father's love, and have completely handed it over to someone else in deception. They just don't know. And I did it too for 25 years. I wrote 2 books. His name is all over my books. I've been teaching and talking and helping women and coaching and all of this. So, let me just take a breath. Y'all all right? I don't know how to tell my family. I feel you, my friend. I wept for many days. Yeah, it's a cruel, cruel thing what they did. But here's what's worse. Let's just go back to that. Here's what they did. After they told everybody to bring all of their scrolls, then they sent out an edict that said anybody who still has a scroll, if you're found to have any of those scrolls buried in the dirt in your backyard or anywhere, they were going to kill you, all of your family, all of your animals, and take your land and wipe your legacy off the earth. Yeah. And then guess what they did with all those scrolls? They had a big old bonfire, y'all, and they burned them. Yeah, that's what had happened. And so then they canonized this book that we call the Bible, and they put the 66 books that that were acceptable in Constantine's eyes based on what the Nicene Council had determined. And then they gave us our Bible. But here, the name of the son that they put in the Bible back then was Iosus. I-E-O-S-E-U-S, I think is how you spell it. I could be wrong. But the name was Iosus. And, well, let me just say this. There was no J in the language. There was no J sound in the language for 1,500 years later. Last year, 2024, the letter J turned 500 years old. It's only 500 years old. So the letter J didn't exist for 500 years. They were praising Iosus and lifting up Iosus. I'm about to drop another one, y'all. Buckle down and hold down your wig. I know, Yunda, I know. It's a lot. Leon, it's a lot. I know. Y'all ever wonder why the New Testament was written in Greek? You ever wonder? The New Testament was not originally written in Greek. The Father didn't speak Greek. The Father didn't write in Greek. He didn't have his disciples speak in Greek. They didn't write in Greek. There was nobody that was chosen by the Father to carry this message that was speaking Greek. And part of the reason why they were not speaking Greek was because they considered the Greek language an abomination. Who knows why they considered the Greek language an abomination? They considered it an abomination because the Greeks saw what the Father had done. He put his name in the language. Let me show you this. Let's see. The Father put his name in the names of the prophets. So Yeshayahu is Isaiah. That's his real name. Yahu, his name is in his name. Yahusha, the man we call Jesus, his name is Yahusha. Yahu is in his name. The tribe that we would call Judah, it's actually Yahuda. Yahu is in their names. Obadiah is his name. Jeremiah, Yirmiyahu. Yahu is in his name. Matthew, Matiti Yahu is in his name. His name is in their name. The Father embedded his name into the ancient Paleo-Hebrew language. He put his name in it. So when you speak in it, you can't help but say his name. And the Greeks knew that. And so what did they do? They embedded their GODs into their language, which is why we have Iosus. That's what they called the man we called Jesus. Iosus is lifting up the Nephilim. That's Zeus. Yeah, Nephilim. That's a whole nother conversation. You guys pin down your wigs. We're talking truth today. I hope it's not too much, but the times are where we can't afford to not know the truth. We got to know the truth, and we got to know his name. I know, Linda, it's a lot. Thanks for watching, Bruce. So yeah, they considered the Greek language an abomination, and they wouldn't speak it because they'd be lifting up another name. And he said that his name is the name that's above all names and that there's no other name. And his name is not the names that they gave us. The Father woke me up. He sent me down this road, and every day it was like, what? And then you listen to the praise and worship songs, and it's just like, oh, my.